Hi everyone, I want to give you a few tips on how to complete the diet analysis assignment for this week. Note that my screen is going to look a little different than yours, but nevertheless you should see the information that you need for creating reports and also completing this assignment. So from the assignment page, you'll note that I've given you some instructions on how to complete this first assignment. Please do watch this video on how to save your report as a PDF. Then you will see your instructions below. Again, I cannot open Pages files, so please submit PDF or a document, Word document. And here you'll see the questions that you will need to answer for the assignment. I've also listed the questions as a Word document and a PDF. In order to create your report for this assignment, you're going to go back into Diet and Wellness Plus. On the next screen, you'll see the link, which will take you back into MindTap. And then you will select the green apple with the plus sign on it, again, to launch Diet and Wellness Plus. Sorry about that. And here you're going to go back to the Reports tab and create the My Plate Analysis Report. In order to capture the data that you've entered, you're going to enter the first date that you logged and the last date that you logged. If you logged more than 3 days, which is perfectly fine, go ahead and capture all of the dates. So I need to go back a little ways. I have some dates from October here. So I enter in October 3rd, and the last date that I logged in October, let's just say the 19th. So now I've captured my 3 days, and the report is created for all 3 days on average. And you'll see that the report compares your intake, which is actual, to the goal intake for the My Plate or Food Guide goals, with a percentage of that group that you met the intake goal for. So going back to the assignment, I've asked you to go ahead and save that report as a PDF. Again, instructions for doing so are on this video right here. And then you're going to answer the questions listed. For example, the first question asks you to compare your grain intake to the goal. So looking at the report, I can see I consumed 3.2 ounces equivalents, and my goal was 6 ounce equivalents, meaning that I consumed about half of my goal. Each question for the food group will also ask you for some additional information. For example, here, list 3 grain sources in your diet and if they are whole grain or refined grain. You might wonder, where would I find that information? Well, if you select the grains link here, you'll find some details about the comparison between whole grains and refined grains. And then you can also go to your food record, which you can either go back to Track Diet and select the date, or you can create a report. You do not need to actually submit this report, but then you could go to Source Analysis and select the source of carbohydrates. Well, actually, let's do this a little different. Sorry about that. Go down to the food log. We'll use the source analysis later on in other assignments. So if you go to the food log, you can see I only logged 1 food that day, but the food actually does fit in with the grains group, the pancakes. So going back to my assignment, I would state, well, pancakes were part of my grains intake, and I would state that that was a refined grain. Again, moving down, I've asked about fruit intake, vegetables, protein foods, dairy, as well as empty calories. When you look at your empty calorie intake, going back to the My Plate report, you'll see again there's sort of a max intake. This goal is a maximum, and then your intake. As empty calories go, you're really looking for foods which are high in sugar, added sugars, added fats, and sort of those extra items that don't really fit into the other food groups. Once you have answered all of the questions, go ahead and save your document, either as a Word doc or a PDF, and submit your assignment with 2 attachments, one being your PDF of your report and the other being your answers to the questions. Get in touch if you have any questions on how to complete this assignment. Thank you.